Have you checked the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Producer Dave.
And that's right, we are back with a rare face on the channel. Producer Dave is here to help me talk about a series that, frankly, has been a long time coming. I first started watching this show like 3 years ago with my ex. Then we broke up and I was like, I'm not watching this show anymore. And then Dave actually gave this show a watch and watched all 4 seasons of it and kept espousing the amazingness of the show. And I was like, I remember liking it, but I don't know, I just haven't gotten back into it. And eventually I jumped back in like halfway through season 2, watched all the way up through season 4. So we are here to talk about seasons 1 through 4 of Lucifer, you guys. Now, this is a show that was originally made by Fox, was ended after 3 seasons, but was then picked up by Netflix to be continued on the Netflix streaming service. The 4th season was Netflix produced. It was only 10 episodes versus season 3's like 26 episodes.
Yeah.
And then Netflix is now doing a season 5 and season 6 to close out the show. So we are here to talk about the first 4 seasons, just in kind of an all-encompassing review. Since we never got around to it, we're going to talk about it. So overall thoughts. Dave, what are your overall thoughts on this show?
Just like Supernatural, it had a perfect timing effect on my life, where the characters, what the characters are going through. I guess the easiest way for me to say it was the show gave me sympathy for the devil.
Very, very nice. I like it. No, yes, it's entertaining on a bunch of different levels. The show is just something that you wouldn't necessarily expect. At first, it starts off as like a procedural, right?
Yeah.
Almost like an kind
Sherlock
of
Holmes.
Sherlock Holmes, kind of X-Files a little bit too. Like, it's regular crimes that are happening, but the devil is teamed up with this regular LAPD Detective Decker, and he helps her sort of solve crimes. And he never lies to her from the very beginning. He's like, I'm Lucifer Morningstar, I'm the devil. And she's just like, oh, okay, yeah. And that's the way everyone is with Lucifer. But it becomes a really interesting, not quite buddy cop drama, but that's kind of what it is. I mean, I don't know.
There's so many angles to this show.
There really are.
I mean, you can look at it from the procedural perspective, because it's a great show just from that perspective. X-Files, along with all the greats of delving into the supernatural, delving into actual devilry and all this other stuff. But at the same time, there's like a whole metaphorical thing that I loved about the show, that he's the devil on her shoulder.
True.
And that she has all these instincts to do all the same things that he does, but she doesn't use them because she knows that they're dangerous and they're seductive or whatever. And there's all these different layers to it. It's beautiful. It's a really good show. First season especially, I would say, it's one of those shipper shows where you just want to see them get together. That's
at
really
first, yes.
At the heart of this show. Is about the 2 characters getting together.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. And it's really cute.
They do the Lois and Clark and the
Yeah.
the Ross and Rachel, as it were, the bringing them together and then pulling them apart for various different reasons. But
yeah, because they have to reset it,
but Lucifer never stops being Lucifer, which is
Right.
the nice thing. Like, he's still very much the lecherous, womanizing, manizing. Like, he doesn't really discriminate.
Right.
He has relationships with all walks of life.
He's a celestial being, so
He doesn't care.
hanging
Exactly.
out in a flesh suit.
Yeah, for real. So it's a really progressive show in that way. But one of the nice things about it, so overall we both like it.
Oh.
Right? And we've covered the
Life-changing
story.
for me.
It's just, and he's not kidding.
Yeah.
He's not kidding. And maybe we'll get around to it, maybe we won't, but he's not kidding. And so Lucifer and Detective Decker and the cast of characters is what makes this whole thing a well-oiled machine. I even told Dave, as I finally started to catch up, because he was like, this show's so good, and I was like, okay, where are you? He's like, I'm almost done with season 2. I was like, I think I'm at that point. Turns out I was only halfway through season 2, so I was like running to catch up. But as I was doing that, I kept telling Dave, I was like, I would bring up something. I was like, what's great about this show is that all of the characters involved you care about.
Yeah.
Like they all have well-rounded arcs from not only Detective Decker and Lucifer, but also Detective Douche, and also the forensic scientist, right? The little Mexican girl, and like all of the main people. Charlotte Richards, she has she has a big part in it as well.
Yeah. In season 1 though.
Season 1 and 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and 3. She was all through 3. At the end of 3 is the end of Charlotte Richards' story. So I really liked this show for not only the way that this story was presented, but also for all the characters involved. Because a police procedural, which is what this can amount to, can get really boring if you don't care about the characters.
It has a great overarching story in every season.
True.
And
that's bigger than just detective level storytelling.
Yeah.
Like it brings in
now I'm blanking,
celestial stuff.
Now I'm blanking on his brother's name.
Amenadiel.
Thank you.
And his sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And he's another fucking great character on the show. And all of the
another angel that's kind of stranded on Earth for the majority of the show, but is trying to show Lucy the way.
It's funny, like Supernatural and this show, they both get the sort of like the esoteric of the biblical story, like the greatest story ever told. They get between the lines, and like the way that both those shows and Lucifer have like expressed it have helped me really understand it in a different way.
Yeah, well, the relationship between him and Amenadiel is great. Amenadiel is a fantastic actor. That has one of the best smiles in Hollywood, quite frankly. There's a scene where he's literally cradling someone as they die, and he's smiling, and you just feel so warm because it's not that he's happy this person's dying, it's that he's so happy that they were such a shining example of what his father wants humans to be. Yeah. And like all of that is just translated in a smile with tears coming down. Like the acting is tremendous in this show, and yes, the characters are great. Like Amenadiel, like you're not wrong. And there's a lot of different.
I was just trying to like illustrate one of this, like basically one of the ancillary characters, and the psychiatrist is fantastic.
Exactly, that's what I was going to get to next. Is that there's a little aspect of Sopranos. Yes, yeah. So everyone loved the fact that Tony Soprano was a crime boss that had to go and see a psychiatrist and deal with his issues without talking about them. And literally, Lucifer is the same thing. He tells her from the start that he's the devil. She doesn't believe him. But what I love about this show, in specific, is that this show doesn't keep you waiting very long. You want to know what happens when the psychiatrist finds out that he's actually the devil? Boom, halfway through season 2, you find out what happens. You want to find out what happens when this person finds out he's actually the devil? Boom, at some point, you find out what happens. So the show is pleasing on a lot of different levels. Like stuff as a viewer where you're like, oh God, what happens when they actually find out he's the devil? Because at first, he's just a normal human, but he's able to take on his devil visage, right? His devil face is what he calls it. And whenever he does that, like the people that he looks at have no choice but to believe that he's actually the devil. But even outside of that, they play with his power of kind of persuasion where people just
tell the truth.
They tell the truth to him, right? They can't help but tell him their greatest desire. Yeah. And so they utilize that to wonderful extents on the show in various episodes.
What do you desire is the question of temptation. Because it's a beautiful...
Tell me, what is it you truly desire? Like, he's always asking that.
Because that's what he asked Eve in the garden, right? Because
Eve, who may or may not become a character in said show.
Which is another great part about it, because she's the...
Can't say. A lot of great characters are introduced. Yeah. So this show, you guys, if anything that we've been saying is like cryptic or whatever, it's only because we're trying not to spoil the experience for you.
Yes.
Quite frankly, Lucifer is just really enjoyable. And quite frankly, I think a lot of couples can dig it. Like
Yeah.
my girlfriend and I, like my girlfriend hadn't watched season 4 yet, hadn't watched the Netflix season yet, but she had seen all of season 3, and she was like, when are you going to get through it? When are you going to get through it? I really want to pick it up. I really want to pick it up. And then we watched season 4, and at the end we were both like, this was definitely, because at the end of season 4, Dave had a transformation, and I won't go into the depth of it. Like, that's all about him if he wants to, but at the end of season 4, he was like, this show is so good, and season 4 is definitely the best season. And absolutely that held true. Season 4 is the best season of the show. It's the first one produced by Netflix, so they don't have to adhere to the same rules that Fox did when they produced the show. And they really utilize that to the show's benefit. And it is, yes, even more than just an entertaining show. There are things that you can take out of it. Namely, like, there's one big lesson where it's like, you can put yourself through hell if you're punishing yourself for something, but it's you that's doing it a lot of the time. And so, yeah, I don't want to step on your toes. So,
well, that was the great concept that I've always had in my personal life, is that hell is that time loop of repeating some horrible thing that happened to you, or doing it to yourself of some regret or whatever. And the way that they did it, and the way that they put it in there, and the way that he would always like explain to people, like, no, you're only going there if you put yourself there. You know, but then the reason hell exists is not to keep people down there, but it's to keep other things down there. And that's really what was great about the overarching show of the guy who rebels against his dad and goes down and talks to some girl in the garden.
Lucifer is the man with the worst daddy issues of all time.
And mommy issues.
Truth.
That's
truth. And it's all addressed in the show.
That was another great thing about both Supernatural and Lucifer, is that they've returned a little bit of the divine feminine that we've destroyed over the years, and that God has a wife.
Yeah, and it's interesting. In both, or a sister in Supernatural's case. Yeah. Nonetheless, that's
back in those days.
Well, nonetheless, the point we're making, guys, is Lucifer is a really entertaining show, and you should really give it a try. The 4th season, it like gets better kind of as it goes, as it finds its footing, and it explores things with its characters. And then there's something that happens at the end of season 3, which dramatically changes a lot of the relationships in season 4.
Yeah.
And it's really entertaining, from discovery of what Lucifer really is with a main character to something that happens with Charlotte Richards and Detective Douche, and that affects the entirety of season 4, as well as something that happens that affects the the medical examiner girl. Like, it's all just,
it's got a lot of
so engaging.
Yeah, it's got a very engagement level, I would say, of like a Breaking Bad, where you just get really invested in all of the characters on the show and how they're all going to find out Walter's secret, or in this case,
Lucifer's
when
secret.
they find out he's the actual devil. And it's almost like they tease it every episode that they're going to find out, and then
because he's always on Front Street about it, and like, people just don't believe him. So it's amazing. It's really worth your time, you guys. Check it out. The reason we're dropping this is because this episode is dropping literally the day that season 5 part 1 drops on Netflix. So yes, Dave's gonna go watch it right now. So yes, if you guys have watched it, let us know what your thoughts are on Lucifer in the comments down below. Are we wrong? Are we right? Also, we gotta say, the show is super sexy. It involves lots of flesh and lots of different arenas.
Good music.
Great music. Fantastic music, actually. So it's worth your time, you guys. We're just kind of talking surface level about it, but the show is very much worth your time. Check it out. If you have seen it, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you haven't, give it your time. Watch the first couple episodes. If you like it, then just watch the rest. It's worth your time.
Watch like the end of season 1 to season 2 or something like that. If you're only going to watch 2 episodes, watch that one.
Well, yeah, you can do that.
One of those.
Either way, whatever you do, give it a try. But thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you very much to Producer Dave for joining me for this review. I wouldn't have sped through this show were it not for your glowing reviews. So until next time, you guys, I've been Cecil Laird.
I've been Producer Dave.
And remember, stay scared.